Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. So I am recording this and I will post it to the class later today. We're going to go over kind of what's happening this week, what's happening next week, and then kind of discuss what the next group project looks like. So what I want to do is share my screen really quickly just so you can see the upcoming announcement. And it's not live yet because I'm waiting. I'm going to post this video with this announcement, but we'll kind of go over it together. If you have questions, we can do that. What you should be doing is making sure that you, oh, hold on. It's not going to show if I do student view. If you have questions, put them in the chat room and I'll make sure that I'm addressing them as I'm going over everything. And let's see, I gotta find it right here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so any questions before we get started, just right off the bat? Nope. Okay, cool. So my first thing that I want to say is I know that some people submitted their video as a group, some people submitted their videos individually. What we're going to do this week is I'm going to be grading those, watching those, and then giving feedback. I will also have an assignment that will come out next week where you have to go in and watch the other group's presentation. And that will get you extra credit on your midterm when you take your test. So if you go back, you look at the other speeches that were presented by other groups and you give feedback on those, then you'll get credit, kind of like the peer reviews that we did for the artifact speech. You'll get some extra credit connected to the midterm that we're taking next week. So what you definitely want to be doing this week, because this is kind of an easy, there's not big speeches that you've got to record or post or anything like that. So you want to start getting the lecture notes that we've sent out. So the PowerPoints that I've sent out, anything that I've said that we need to be looking at in reference to the YouTube videos that I posted, making sure that you kind of know where those things are. I will be reminding you of that on Tuesday of next week. I'll do a review for the midterm. So I'll kind of talk about this is what you need to have open and available to you as you're taking the test. These are the announcements that you find that information. I will give you some, direction in that way. But if you don't kind of have that stuff saved and organized in Canvas or you've deleted them, that's going to make it harder on you. So you really want to make sure that you're showing up for next week's review, just so you can know where everything is and be on top of it. Now, the test, what I do is I give you from Thursday to Sunday to complete the test. And the way that I work it is as long as you don't answer a question, you can always go back to the test. So for example, if you answer questions 1 through 10 and then your mom or your roommate or someone says, hey, can you drive me to the store or whatever? Can you pick me up from here? And you have to get out of the test. You can still answer question 11 to the rest of the test, but you can't go back and answer those other questions that you've already given answers to. So you will be able to open and close it, but once you answer a question, then that question is what stands. Now, it will be due Sunday night at midnight, but you don't need to worry about that this week. You just want to make sure that you're reviewing the most updated PowerPoint, and this PowerPoint is kind of connected to what you're going to be turning in for your journal entry that's due. If you haven't done it yet, it's due by Sunday night at midnight. So what I recommend, the first thing is to review this PowerPoint. This talks about group dynamics. It talks about how we make decisions in groups, how we can look at a group as effective or non-effective, why it's better to sometimes be working as an individual over a group. So for example, if you struggled with your group members, you might talk about that experience in your journal entry. But all of this you should read over before you do your journal entry for your Meet the Band or virtual vacation group. And so these are things that you can reference in your writing of your journal it's also things that will be covered on the midterm. So you want to just make sure that you're reading, what does it mean to have an effective group? What's that process like, et cetera. Now, the second thing that you'll have to do, if you have any questions about the midterm or questions about this assignment, or if you're watching this video for the first time, is you definitely want to make sure, hold on one second, my phone's going crazy. You want to make sure that you're reviewing all the information that is going on in this Zoom, and keep it available for you as you have questions next week for the midterm, if there's something that you're trying to get answers on. The third thing that you have to do is something that you've done before, so it's going to be really easy. You have to watch either one or both of these presentations. These are two different speeches. One is by Barack Obama before he was president. He spoke at the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, in 2004. This is where he became a rising star, gave a powerful speech, campaigning for, I think it was John Kerry at the time, who didn't end up becoming president. But that speech is kind of what put him on a national platform. And you can watch that speech, or you can watch Arnold Schwarzenegger's speech at the Republican National Convention in 2004, which is also a speech that kind of put Arnold on the national map. It's when people started debating whether or not we should let foreign nationals run for office in the United States. Arnold was not a natural born citizen, and so he could not run for president, but he could run for governor. And lots of people debated whether or not we should change that in our Constitution, because they saw him as a rising star in the Republican Party, and wanted to put him on that track. So both of these speeches were seen to be as, really influential speeches in the Republican and Democratic national conventions. Now, you can choose one or the other, or you could watch both of them and compare and contrast those speeches. It has to be at least 3 paragraphs, shooting for 1 full page. And you can look at content, so how the speech is written. You can look at delivery, so how they delivered the speech, the things that you liked or disliked about their delivery techniques. You can look at length of speech, things they could have cut out, things that they should have added. All that stuff is fair game. It cannot just be a bullet point of those speeches. You've got to do a processing of what you liked or disliked about those presentations. And at least 3 full paragraphs or more, shooting for 1 full page for full credit. Now, the last assignment is your journal entry. And if you haven't done that yet, I recommend that you work on this first, mainly because your experience working with your Meet the Band or your virtual vacation group is going to be most present in your mind right now. The longer you wait over the course of this week, you're going to forget things that maybe were frustrating or things that worked well, and it's going to be harder to write that paper. All you do is click on this link, and then it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. There are different things that are required for this activity, so make sure you read the entire prompt for the assignment. If you leave any part out, that's going to count off points. So you don't want to not read the assignment and just turn in a journal entry. There are things that you have to do to grade your group members, to grade yourself, to talk about the experience as a whole. And that's due by Sunday night at midnight, but you can turn it in at any time. Okay. So any questions about anything that is due before I start talking about the next group presentations? Everybody got it? Okay, so I'm going to assume that that is a yes, because I don't see any chat questions and I don't see anybody raising their hand or say anything. So now let's talk about the next group presentation. That presentation is called the political presentations, and there's 4 over the course of the semester. The first group that is going to meet each other is going to happen this week. I'll be reaching out to those people this week. That's called the media group. Those group members kind of set the tone for the rest of the semester. They brief the class about kind of what's going on in reference to upcoming assignments. And they are kind of like the news group, fake news or not, of the political groups that are presenting. So for example, in those 4 different presentation types, The media group will have to submit a assignment tab with me. They'll be working with me to tell you what's due for each presentation. So for example, if I'm in the media group, I'm meeting with the teacher ahead of time. We're coming up with what the requirements are for the first presentation. We create a video or an assignment or a PowerPoint that's going to be released to the class. And then the class in their separate groups, either Republican, Democrat, Independent, Undecided, those 4 groups may exist. And then those groups are going to work on whatever the assignment prompt is for the week. You're going to have lots of time. Don't freak out. Even if you don't know anything about politics, you'll learn things as we go through it this semester. Students always love this presentation and group work by the end of the class because they kind of get to kind of know what's going on in the world, but they also kind of get to have fun with their candidates. But you as a group will kind of decide who you're running for president. And we'll talk about that as we move into those presentations. But there's 4 different presentations. So one is Media Day. That's where you kind of introduce your candidate to us. You tell us who they are, what their history is, why they're qualified to run for president. And just like in the real world, we have rules. So for example, your group might say, your media group might say that someone who's not a natural born citizen are not over this age can't run for president. So for example, they may create age requirements and citizenship requirements, et cetera, just like we have in the United States. Once the groups introduce their candidate, so it's kind of like Meet the Band or Virtual Vacation, where you're introducing your candidate. Once that presentation happens, then we have the great debate. And that's where the media group will put up questions. They'll post them in the discussions tab. And then you as a group will determine who's going to answer which questions. You'll post your 1-minute answers about why you're against or for, allowing students to go to college for free, or why you believe that Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, or whatever the debate is. Your group is going to have a group answer, and people will be answering those questions for your candidate. The third presentation is the Vote for Us presentation, and that's kind of like this speech that you're going to watch for the Democratic or Republican National Convention. It's kind of giving your best presentation about why you think this candidate should be voted on. So why should we give our vote to this particular person? So for example, you might talk about, what they're going to do for the community, what they're going to do for the environment, why they're better than the other candidates. Just like you watched during the Trump and Biden, back and forth, you're going to see that kind of happen between the groups in the presentations that are submitted. The last presentation is the real deal, and I'm not going to reveal that yet because the media group gets to kind of decide what we do for that. There's lots of different options that I'll talk to them about, and then we'll create that tab. What you should know is that whatever the political groups are doing, the same requirements are also put on the media group. So it doesn't mean that they're just setting the platform from the class and then they get to sit back and do nothing. If they tell you that you have to do a PowerPoint that has 10 slides, then they have to do the exact same thing. If they tell you that you've got to do a 10-minute presentation as a group and submit it, then they've got to do a 10-minute presentation and submit it. And you'll kind of see how it's working as the semester goes on. You may not be in the same group with the same people that you already in a group with. You may be meeting new people and participating in a new environment. And again, if you're having trouble with your group members, you are allowed to fire a group member, and that group member will be moved to another group, and they can't be fired a second time. So if they get proposed to be fired again, then they'll have to fail the class because they can't complete the assignment. So you really want to make sure that you're engaged and participating in your groups, because your groups are going to be giving feedback on how you participated, just like in this journal that's happening right now in reference to the Meet the Band and the Virtual Vacation groups. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Is there any questions? Everybody's good? No questions. Okay, So if there's no questions, then you are free to go. I will post this to the Canvas portal, and that will be posted probably by the end of the day today, because it takes time for YouTube to upload the video. But if you do have questions, or if you have group members that ask you what we discussed, just tell them to watch the video that's in the announcement that's coming out today. All right, you're free. If you don't have any questions, I'll be staying on for a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome.